you are saying that you're seeing investor groups who bought, let's just say, probably 12 or 15 or 20,000 homes in Metro Atlanta over a 4 or 5 year period. I'm just making a number up. I don't know what number is right.
No, those are not too far off. There you go. Any of those numbers are not too far off.
So they are starting to right size their inventory. In other words, they're starting to sell some of the inventory that doesn't fit in their portfolio anymore, and you're saying that you're starting to see them add more inventory to the portfolio. I have not heard that yet. All I have seen is over the last couple of years them disposing of properties, so putting more properties back on the market, but not necessarily buying. So I know you can't give any specifics because you have some confidentiality with your clients, but tell us kind of what you're seeing.
I don't really call it disposing. More, it is a disposition, but it's more of a trimming, or it could be balancing the portfolio. It could be not in their box, the wheelhouse that they want. And so if you shed some, that's kind of normal in the process. You know, these go into big securitization pools, and they're pretty set. But sometimes if it doesn't fit the model, or if they don't want it, they'll trim it.
It's typically things that just make it where it doesn't fit their portfolio anymore. Literally, it had a fire. Okay, that doesn't fit. We can't rent a property that is burned. We got to sell it to somebody else. Or they thought there was no HOA, and it turns out there is a mandatory HOA, and there's rental restrictions, so that doesn't work. In some cases, investors, they have too many problems with septic systems, and they say when something comes up and it's on a septic system, we don't want to own it anymore. So your description of sort of trimming it and making it match what the criteria is for their portfolio, that is a real accurate way to describe it. I don't think they're selling them because they're not good investments anymore.
That's right. I think it's just their box. They want to trim to get their boxes right. And the same box they use for buying, right? And so the buyer's box and what they hold, the portfolio box, shouldn't be too different. And so all of the things you're saying are why you would trim to get everything to fit in that box. And so the box is not little, it's bigger than you would think, but at the same time, you do have to do some trimming. Yeah, we've noticed that there is some buying going on, which is surprising, just like you were saying. It hasn't been going on the last couple of years. It was surprising. It's a pleasant surprise. And so we're still doing a few more dispositions than we are acquisitions, but the acquisitions are increasing, which is, again, surprising. To me, I can't really pinpoint why. I can just generally say, okay, is it the economy's going to get better, or is it's a good time to buy? Prices did take a little bit of a dip. It could be either one of those two, or it could be we just got some money here, we got to spend it. And we can rent because the rent went up. You know, it could be any of those things.
Yeah, my guess is if it didn't make good financial sense, they wouldn't be doing it because they've got a bunch of investors all over the world that rely on them, and that would throw a fit if the returns started being different than they were before. Interestingly, so we're saying they're selling the assets to right size their portfolio, and they're starting to acquire assets, and I think that's a good sign. Now, have you heard any of the rumblings under the surface where the U.S. government is going to limit institutional investors' ability to invest in single-family detached homes?
You see the bill that was proposed in this state?
I did not. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, there was a bill that was proposed in this state. It didn't make crossover. But yeah, there was one proposed, and there's good reasons for it from the legislator's perspective. It affects their counties, and so they're going to bring up, a way to try to protect their constituents and what they think is tough. So it's not the theory, it's not right, but at the same time, it didn't make it, to crossover, so it didn't come up for a vote. I don't think. I wasn't in the weeds on it. And so, on the one hand, whoever brought the bill, I mean, it makes sense for them locally in their counties, but on the other hand, it's hard to take and tell people, you can't buy a product and rent it, So I don't know what the balancing of it was, but I think maybe he just pushed it off until they do more study. There's two different perspectives on just about everything, right? There's always two sides of the story, and I can see both sides of the story. I do understand it, and so it just comes down to, it's hard to say, hey, you got too many properties, you got to sell them.